Mm.
All right. 7:04, I'm going to call the May 22nd Select Board meeting to order, and we'll start with the pledge of allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag, United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty, and justice for all.
Great. Moving on to amendments to the agenda, we're going to we're going to add a item 6.1, and it's going to be capital roads.
7.1.
Yeah, 7.1. Capital roads discussion. Amendment. All right, and then moving on to the minutes from May 8th and May 11th. Do I have a motion to approve? Moved by Rob. Do I have a second? Second. Oh, yeah, you were kind of.
No,
You don't have
do I vote or not
Yeah,
vote?
you vote.
Okay.
All right, any discussion on the minutes? Any issues? All right, all those in favor? All right, passes 5-0. All right, we have any public comments.
Oh, no, we have May 11th. Let's do our emergency meeting.
Oh, right. What's that?
May 11th meeting.
I had-
That was our emergency.
I did that, but we did that vote.
Oh, we
we
did
approved
both at the
both,
same
yeah.
time?
Yeah.
My bad.
So moving on to 7.1 capital roads discussion. Jump up here. So the idea is we're trying to figure out what we want to do to keep our roads, capital roads, where it was last year. Budget wise, I mean, the costs have gone up, and so we're looking for guidance as to what makes the most sense logistically and timing wise. And then, yeah.
Yes, and let me just bring it up real quick. I had sent Sarah an email that I'm pretty sure she distributed to you guys with a couple of different options.
Yep.
On it.
It was an email.
It was, I'm trying to,
I don't know what's that. May 8th.
Yep.
Okay.
All right. So. Yes, that's your request is perfectly understandable. I completely get where you're trying to go. So I had highlighted 3 different options for the board to consider. Roughly in trying to save approximately $200,000. In rough numbers. But the option 1 was obviously the removal of the sidewalk repair on River Road. As you can see in my email to the board, that basically I proposed this one as a first option only because it encompassed the total amount of cost right off the bat. There was very little. And 2, it has very little impact to the traveling public. I realize it has impact to the walking community and pedestrian environment, but as far as the traveling vehicular community, it has no impact. So obviously that was my first choice as far as being able to protect in a triage type mindset of what's most important. That would be where I go to first. Option 2 would be to reduce the scope of River Road sidewalks by half so that we still do a certain amount of the project, and then also look to Academy Hill. We could basically, this is just an idea of taking half of some of the money out of approximately 100,000 out of River Road, and then taking approximately 100,000 out of the Academy Hill side of the equation. Academy Hill is more of a preventative maintenance. It's not, Can we squeeze another year out of Academy Hill? Yes, it's just gonna put us a little bit further behind on the overall treatment. But can we do it? I mean, we can live with it. It's not like the road is completely falling apart. So that was an option to kind of satisfy the pedestrian side of the house, if you will, with a little bit of something and still not hugely impact the roadside as far as the traveling public goes. So that was an option. Option number 3 was taking off the surface on Station Road. That was $154,000 savings. I put that as my least favorite option because basically we worked really hard in our program to maintain our, when I look at roads and I look at our pavement, I consider it to be a structure as a whole. So, like much like a house, it's got a foundation and then it's got the structure on top of it. So we've got our base foundation being the gravel. We've got our framing is done being the base layer. And now we're just trying to really put the finish on the top, which is, everything that kind of holds everything together. So I really would not like to do that, but it is an option. I mean, I'd be remiss to tell you that we couldn't probably stretch through another winter without having a surface on Station Road. You could probably get away with doing that if you wanted to. I just don't think that it's, wise. You've got a road basically with 2.5 inches of hot top on it. So it's just not, it's not a lot. Think of it this way. Most of the residential driveways are 3. So your road is 1/2 inch underneath that. So I really wouldn't go that way. And then if you can believe this or not, I was up at the dump and I ran into Ben, and Ben's like, "Hey, I got an idea about something too," which isn't in here, but we were just spitballing some ideas. And he said, "Well, what if we don't do the paving on Island Road and we do all the dirt work and then we put the paving off until next year?" And I'm like, "Well, yeah, you could in theory do that, and that would save, a good portion of your sidewalk thing down here." But it's been a long-standing goal of mine to try to eliminate as much as possible some of these dirt roads. These dirt roads are a real pain in the wintertime. They are just a hassle to maintain. So in my personal feeling, professionally to you, is to try to eliminate them as much as we can. So I can appreciate that we could still accomplish a River Road sidewalk project by cutting out that base pavement on Island Road. Is it possible? Yes. I mean, so I guess you could consider that. I just, in my heart of hearts, I have a hard time flying my flag of recommendation with it, but it definitely bears conversation for the board. That's in your wheelhouse to discuss those for sure. So that's not an option that was written to you, but that was just something we just talked. I just happened to be talking about this particular situation with Ben. And he's like, "What about that?" So well, that's could be viable. I mean, it's not a horrible thing. So really, this is just your decision. I mean, I can make it work. I will make it work, whatever you guys decide. You're the board, you're the boss. So I respect however way you guys want to go. There's not a right or a wrong. I mean, pedestrian traffic is equally as important as vehicular traffic, but just to a different degree. I mean, as we try to move about the town, it definitely is important. Just a matter of the board's pleasure and does it override other projects? That's up to you.
So there was, with possibly a $50,000 amount that was.
Yes.
Not there anymore.
So yes, bring us up to date on.
Yeah. So some of the invoices have started to come into the town office. I've been able to get most of all the repairs done on the other roads. I don't have a grand total, to be honest with you. Can you help me? You have roughly, I'm gonna say roughly 40.
I can pull it.
Is that
Yeah,
roughly? Keep up.
Keep
Yeah.
talking.
Yeah, no. I think it's somewhere right now in the roughly 40, but we haven't got anything on Lynch Road done yet. But to bring you completely up to for the people that are listening at home that may not be, I'll just do a real quick recap, and then that way they can be brought up to speed. But long story short, as a result of all the storm damage, we went through and did a pretty comprehensive review of what we had for damage and got almost everything all fixed. The only outstanding issues that we don't have fixed currently is Lynch Road, which, as you know, we've got some other substantial issues going on. All the roads in town are open. There isn't anything that's closed. So I feel, pretty good about that. The Lynch Road situation has developed, I'll say quite positively. I feel pretty confident that we're gonna be able to at least qualify for some help and put a good faith effort. I don't think that we're gonna be swimming upstream against no possible funding solutions from the feds at all. So that's a good thing. Everything that I've heard from the engineer has been very positive in this, in the tune that definitely qualifying event, definitely qualifying location, definitely he said the FEMA should be in touch with us and be up to take a look in the next couple of weeks. So those are positive. We received feedback that even though it happened to be after the official deadline, they were still going to consider it. So that's great news. We were able to get the repair on Lynch Road done. We put in 8 yards of concrete and it does wash. So that hole did go underneath the footer. So we were able to get it to take and stiffen up. So that side of that is stable. What we did is we took some fabric down along the inside of that rock wall and we used that basically as a form and then poured up against it. I was able to reach out to Knowles. We played phone tag back and forth. I have yet to speak to him. He's got a couple of options. In the meantime, I've got a machine moved out there and I'm probably just going to take that other head wall apart, get that built and put it back together. We didn't have an ordinance. We still don't have an ordinance, but the road was posted on the Edgecombe side coming into Newcastle at 10. So I don't know if that was real or not because we don't have a record of it, but there was a sign up anyways that said posted 10-ton weight limit. There was nothing on the Route 1 side. So we put out our message board. And so now it says road posted 10 tons, just to give people kind of a heads up on it. I feel pretty confident that the box itself is stable to the tune that, nobody's gonna fall into the abyss by driving over it. I don't think that. We cleaned all the brush off the sidewalls, all the dirt off. We checked it during that last rainstorm. I wanted to try to make sure the water ran smoothly over the lips as opposed to concentrated in one area. And that it seemed to be doing that. So that's a good thing. Our goal is by the end of the week to have the freshwater inlet side reconstructed so that that's not hollow and, we should be good for a little bit. I will be very, very honest and tell you that box is definitely moving. It's definitely moving. There's nothing underneath that footer. There's nothing. So I received, give me 1 second just so I don't misconstrue any of the executive.
While you're looking, Sarah, was it indication that we would get FEMA help with the other storm damage? Town,
I
or-
was able to apply for the salt shed, the rest, no.
From
Was
the
that
engineer.
deadline thing, or was it?
Whoops, sorry.
I'm sorry.
Yeah,
Yeah. Was that-
Right, I didn't have any invoices for estimated costs or photos of the damage by the deadline, so I submitted for the salt shed.
What was the other?
Just all of the other damages to the roads.
Just like
basically
ditch it, run out on the
washout,
ditch. Yeah.
ditching,
Okay.
Lewis Hill.
Lewis Hill,
No.
Cochrane Road, East Oak County Road, North Newcastle Road. And then all the brush and trees and stuff like that on all the other roads.
Yeah.
But the deadline is just so tight.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, I think it was a week
Like
or
10 days.
it was 10 days. I think it
Yeah.
was 10 days after. I mean, we hadn't even, well, it was the 11th.
Right,
It was the night before
Yeah.
and we just had found Lynch Road as a result. I mean, it's just, it's kind of hard, but in conversation with the back closing the loop of what we were just talking about, conversation with the engineer, he says that geotech is drilling and geotech is penciled in for a late June. So he's going to do the geotech on Lynch Road and do the geotech on Pleasant Street here at the same time. So that's scheduled for late June. And then survey is going to happen at the same time. So both of those will be coming about the same time frame. One will be solely ours, but the other will be information that we can use for the FEMA stuff as we move forward with whatever we decide to do for design for Alabama Road. So we're working on it. I mean, it's coming, it's getting there.
But the long and short of it is that 50 grand's gone.
It is.
the total will
Yeah.
be on the next warrant, we don't
Yeah.
have.
I get that.
But that's not something we can apply toward, I mean,
Yeah.
at one point, we were thinking, hey, we could apply some of that towards the next year's budget, but right. It's
can't-
gone.
I can't speak for Sarah, but I can't imagine that she would say that I'm too far off base.
Yeah.
When they come look at Lynch Road, I'm sure we could twist their arm or try to persuade them to help us in any way, shape or form with the rest of it. But that doesn't mean to say yes, but it doesn't hurt to ask. The answer is always no unless we, hey, we got all
Right.
of this, can we?
Yeah.
Yeah.
See what we can do. Whether it's yay or nay, but hopefully we'll have them in town, so we'll have their attention at least.
Good.
They're still examining the other fish passageways for potential funding for like Lewis Hill. He's trying to see if that would be an option. So if that is the case and we have an option on that, then that might be some monies available there to help offset the cost of construction. With that, just to really fix that issue again.
Who helps you with that? Or is that anyone in particular? Is it someone from the state that
Who's doing this? This
helps
is
with the fish?
all engineers. So VHB was the engineer that I like to use them. They're really
Okay.
good. They're a multinational engineering firm. I find them to have a very wide range of resources. They are predominantly known for working with the National Park Service and Acadia and doing a lot of historic stuff. And then the guy in general that I find him just to be very, very down to earth and very much open to some real world common sense approach type engineering as opposed to, well, that's not what it says. The math is this, which is still safe, but just hear what I'm saying, not what I mean, I mean, very, hey, what do you think about doing this type of fix? Oh, I can make that work and just save a little bit, but still making sure we're within the confines of the engineering world stamp. So he's did our survey for us on the South Dyer Neck Bridge. And so he's the one that I just immediately reached out to.
But they
okay.
help with the qualifying for.
Yep.
For,
So- They have a whole
Okay.
division that does nothing but work with
That's
the
great.
fisheries to do just that type of stuff. That's all they do.
that's
Yep.
great.
So that's who I reached out to, and he's the one doing the stuff for the Lynch Road box and for Pleasant Street. So he's gonna try to put it all together. Get us over to us for projects.
Yeah.
But really, that's where it stands. I have not invoiced anything for Lynch Road because we haven't actually done the work yet besides the repair, which I'll put it all together. Which I will assume that if the box qualifies for reimbursement, that the repair should also be part of that qualifying event for that particular location within the assumption. I don't know, but again, we can try.
Yeah.
I feel very good, rest easy at night knowing that I don't think the box is gonna just crumble. But I do think, as we discussed in our emergency meeting, it's just gonna be something that we really have to focus on for the next year to come, because this isn't a problem that we can just ignore. It's gonna come back to bite us. That's just all there is to it. But we'll get the rest of the repairs out there done, that shoulder, and get that cleaned up, and then that will finish 100% all the storm damage. So we're not in a bad shape, but of course, then we got 2.5, 3 inches of rain on
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Saturday. So
Yeah.
I mean, it's just, we're seeing these events and they're just becoming more frequent.
When did you do the repair?
Good question. Sarah and I had chatted a little bit about that, but I wanted to get that because I saw the rain coming, so we were able to get that in Friday.
Okay, yeah.
So
Yeah.
that was
Mm.
done before the rain. I didn't want that to.
I went by Sunday afternoon just because I said, well, if they didn't get it done, probably there isn't a box called.
No,
But I was pretty amazed because I walked down on that other side where we gotta try and figure out how to like gunite in.
Yes.
Or whatever.
yes,
And it was, yeah, I mean, and it was ripping through at that point.
it is.
And, yeah, it was, I mean, the couldn't even tell where the hole was before. It was quite a hole. So
Yeah.
that was good. Everything held through that rain and
Yeah.
it looked great. But
And we went flowable fill instead of concrete because that way when we go take the box out, it'll be a little easier to remove it.
Yeah.
We put concrete in there, it would have stiffened up a little bit quicker, but it would have been a real pain to try to get that away from the
Yeah.
structure.
Yeah.
As we try to remove, with a hammer, that flowable fill will just break off.
Is that
But
on
yeah,
both sides? So,
no, the inlet side, that's what we're gonna do. I'm gonna try to get that done this week, but since that's not out in the travel lane, it's in 9 feet, but if you measure in 9 feet, it's right basically guardrail.
Yeah.
So, and it's just isolated on that side, so it's really not weight bearing for anything. I'm more worried that if we get a massive rain amount again that comes up that high, that it will,
kind of rough.
that'll go through it.
yeah, exactly.
But the one that was under the road, that hole is filled and level back up to the top of the road height. We did it all with that flowable fill.
Mhm.
concrete.
Yeah.
That's right.
No,
It's
it looked,
completely level.
looked good. I mean, I couldn't, like I said, I knew where the hole was, but you wouldn't know that it was that big of a hole.
Yeah, it's, yeah, 8 yards of concrete went in that hole.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a good size. So that's where we
Alright.
are with the storm damage stuff.
So-
And Sarah's able to apply for that reimbursement for the salt shed. I haven't even, to be honest with you, I haven't even got to look at it, but I will look at the canvas and see what the deal is. And I still have the original parts list from when we built it. So I can just reorder right off of the brochure and shouldn't be a big deal. I think it was ClearSpan that we got it from, and they're still in business, so I don't envision it's gonna be much of a problem. We can just order a new top and string it. And do it. I hope. you know,
I'd just like to just put a plug in, just again, with this capital roads discussion, that when we started this program, where we're at right now is a place I never thought we'd get, in my wildest dreams. We've been doing these sizable projects, and so I think they really do have value, and I think it's a good thing, and I don't want anyone to think that we're trying to diminish this program or cut it out. It's just that we've got costs beyond our control that we're trying to deal with. But I think that moving forward, I think it's good to keep checking in with this, as far as like next year and future years and things like that, to sort of see where we're gonna put these resources, because I think it's an important program to keep. We don't wanna, we don't wanna stop until we have everything fixed. We don't.
Then we
So-
just start over again.
Then we just start.
I've got one other tidbit. I understand this is a budget, but just so the board is aware, bids went out and were received for all the water line replacement in Newcastle. And that we haven't officially signed, so I cannot tell you with 100% certainty, but I can tell you with 95% certainty that that work is going to happen. So that means new water line on Glidden Street, the new taps and services on Mills Road, new water line on Plum Street with a new connection on Main Street. All the services out here on Liberty will be brought over to the new line, and a new line on River Road.
Hmm.
So
Wow.
That's a lot.
that's a lot.
That's a lot.
Yeah, it's almost 5,000 feet of new
Wow.
main. So
What's the
it's
year,
about
what's the vintage of
55
that?
services. What's the what?
Well, when was that put in? Yeah,
The,
What's
oh,
out here?
I can't be honestly tell you, a long time ago.
Yeah.
I mean, some of it is 2-inch galvanized pipe.
Yeah.
I know that the stuff on Glidden Street is still the old horsehair
Wow.
cast iron. And it's
Yeah.
old, so
No wood pipes though.
I'm not gonna
Maybe.
write anything. Yeah, I don't. But and that will be happening this summer.
Wow.
How does the money flow in that? Is that all through?
Scott got I believe, again, I don't want this to be misconstrued, as I know exactly what I'm talking about, but state revolving fund, I think, Drinking Water Foundation. He can tell you the exact funding source, but there's a grant aspect to it, and then there's a matching a little bit from the district, and then there's some federal dollars that, very low rate return that gets to pay, and some of it is free. So I mean, a whole bunch of different things went into it, but he got it all. So that's quite a bit of work.
All these roads will be dug up.
Yes,
Yeah.
100%.
So hopefully not before, hopefully before the paving takes place.
No, it'll be after.
Oh,
So
Okay.
where's the pipe? I mean,
The water line
yeah, the water line.
on, help me out, which road?
Down here, I'm just curious. I mean, I'm just thinking, if
So
we don't do River Road here, the sidewalk, is there water line underneath it? You gotta
No.
rip up the sidewalk?
nope, the water line. I can pull out my plans to show you, but I'm pretty sure it's on the other side.
Inside the curb or outside the curb?
Outside the curb.
Okay.
And Liberty Street is just the individual services, because Liberty Street is one of those ones that have unique. We did Rob's
It-
house
It
last.
was a mess. There were
There's-
like,
Two mains down through there and one of them is newer than the other,
Yeah.
but they didn't bring the house services off it.
Yeah.
Still off the old one, so we're gonna tie them into the new pipe. Glidden Street's a complete replacement, Pump Street's a complete replacement, but the good thing about that is that doesn't circle back around to Business Route 1, so that doesn't make a loop, but now it's going to, we're gonna tie in Pump Street back to Route 1 and Glidden Street to Business Route. So,
Hmm.
and make that loop, so that'll increase quite a bit of flow through there. Size wise is gonna be increased, it's gonna be HDPE pipe,
Mhm.
all new services, so. Point being, capital road budget wise, that next year. We'll have the surface on, or hope if it goes through as proposed, depending on what changes you make. If we do the surface on Island Road. Instead of doing any of the road, we probably should suck those resources in and tackle, now the water main's in. We can look to do some drainage work and get some surfaces and some sidewalk in some of these in-town streets, because all the water line work will be done. And the road won't have to be disturbed again,
Mhm.
so. We'll probably have to change, a little bit of a change of course to draw it back in town as opposed to some of the outlying roads. Now that this grant has been, or the funds have been awarded and the project looks to go.
Yes.
It's supposed to start in the fall.
Okay.
And then wrap up in the spring.
Yeah, I think that was,
I'm gonna push really hard to try to get Glidden Street done first. Um.
Yeah.
If I can, so I'll get
Mhm.
Glidden and Pump, because that's where a lot of temporary water is.
Yeah.
We can do anything down here. These are just individual services. So as we get later in the season, we don't have to rely on temp water just for individual services. This will probably be later, and then River Road will probably be, if I have to do one in the spring, it'll be River Road. But just a heads up, that will be happening. So there'll be quite a bit of construction going on between Mills Road, that project coming down through Main Street. All the water line work in town here will be busy coming fall.
and all of that's gonna be, that's, all those funding sources are through the water district. so
Yep.
It's not,
Has zero impact to us, with the exception of, we just gotta, they'll put the road back to, our request, which they've got planned in their specs, so.
Yeah.
That worked out good, but. Yes, it will be ripped up. There'll be a little bit of a disturbance down there for. Quite a few months,
Wow.
it'll be 2 or 3 months. Hard.
Wow.
So, do you want to make a decision
yeah.
on that?
So we had set our budget line to be the same as last year. So if we took your, going back to your thing, I think that my impression is that your first recommendation is the thing that makes the most sense. As much as I like getting the sidewalks in, I think we can, that there's no real downside to pushing that off a year. And maybe doing more sidewalk, next year than just that segment. But that only gets us partway to the number that we voted on. There's another like
I
17,000.
think we're, I think we're still. This says 200, but I think we're still like, 215 is the number I had.
Right, so that, if we just take that, 199,000 out, we're still at a total
Still needs-
that's about 17,000 above what we voted to put in. So I guess the question is, how do
How do we do
how do we do that without messing up with the scope? I mean, is that a small enough amount that we can tweak and, kind of shuffle things and maybe put a little bit off, or, I get, that's a kind of the biggest question, I guess, because we did vote on a number.
Yeah.
Right.
So,
Yeah, it's the same number as last year. I think it's 865,
855, 530.
855, excuse me.
So you're looking for roughly another,
That was like 17,000.
I would take it off of. Off of Academy Hill.
Okay.
So that would just mean a slightly shorter section would get done?
I mean,
Okay.
Academy Hill is slated right now for 122. So if you just said roughly 100,000 for Academy Hill.
Yeah.
That would give you a little bit more than.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Your estimated budget.
Money equals length of pavement, right?
Right,
Yeah.
correct.
Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah, okay, perfect.
Okay.
That's great. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that.
So right now, what the budget called for that was 1,000 lineal feet. So I could just do the math back, I can send Sarah an email tomorrow so that but basically we just, maybe it's whatever, 925,
Yeah, yeah.
whatever that.
whatever that works
distance
out
is.
to.
Yeah.
And then that way you shrink the project that way.
Plus, I think that makes.
It makes
Yeah.
me sad not to have sidewalks, but
I know, well, I mean,
I
again, I
agree.
think it's,
Yeah.
but it's something that we, you know, we
We-
definitely want to do, but
Yep.
it's easy enough to shift here.
Yeah.
It doesn't have the impact of some of the other things.
the roads,
things.
yeah. they
Yeah, I
need
mean,
to
I think last year when you did the sidewalks going up to the Lincoln Home.
Yeah.
I think that was like $89,000
That was 2 years ago.
2 years ago,
We haven't done last year's sidewalk yet. We will before the budget runs out.
which
and
is
that's-
Main Street.
That's Shuck Station,
That's-
basically in front of Shuck.
That's the
Station.
29,500.
Correct.
But I'm just thinking, yeah, 89,000 at that time was like, should we do it,
Yeah.
But, so yeah, $200,000 in sidewalks, but I just say this, that sidewalks are a part of our important factor in our comp plan. So I think we should always keep sidewalks
Yep.
in the
Absolutely.
discussion.
I think the thing I was thinking about with it too is that some of the stuff like we've had discussions and this is part of our work that we gotta start working on for next year. Is our debt ratio is really low. We have a lot of debt. And is it something where we do a section of sidewalk and then it's not good, and does it make more sense to look at that as a more
larger-
capital project like on Academy Hill where we just say, what is it that we
Mhm.
want to achieve on this? What is it that we want to do, and take off a bigger thing and just do an entire section at once? If we're adding street lighting or whatever we're doing, just get that up to a thing so that we actually have the connectivity, and we're not just necessarily doing it piecemeal.
Mhm.
It was sort of the thought that I had been throwing.
And then
around.
finance part of it.
Yeah, finance part of it
Yeah.
or something like that. If we're gonna.
Yeah,
if
it's
we're
another
gonna-
way to do it.
And it'd be an interesting way to look at it too, because again, it is a big
Mhm, mhm.
part of like you said, it's a part of our comp plan, it's part of these, things, and again, not to go in the Wayback Machine, but it was a big deal when we got that section of sidewalk done between town office and intersection.
Mhm.
And that was, it's already been replaced. Yeah. anyway.
Yeah, I think safety's priority
yeah.
one. Nuisance is priority two, so you're not dealing with potholes and some kind of ugly road.
Right.
And then I think, priority vehicle, priority pedestrians are kind of at the same level in my mind.
Yeah.
So if we're gonna start sort of trickling down money, we gotta hold those both in this kind of equal conversation. How's this fit into budget?
It would have been a much softer blow if there had already been granite in place. I mean,
Yes.
that's-
Yeah.
that's a
Yep.
substantial savings, so,
Yeah.
out of the budget for River Road, 76 grand of that's new granite.
Yep.
So you're really adding, you're replacing a Escort with a Escalade to the extent that, your asphalt curb is what you got, but you're getting all new reset height, so it's really quite a improvement to the area as opposed to just, that was what the beautiful thing about the one from Lincoln Home into town is that we were able to reuse that. I think it came out really, without
Mhm.
having to buy a single stitch. It's worked out pretty well. You
Yeah.
can Use a ton of it. It works good. So, but that really had an impact on that budget. So if we were to do asphalt or concrete, we would have been right around 13.5 for the curbing compared to 76 for the grant.
Yeah.
But don't let the numbers fool the apples versus oranges
No,
approach.
no.
But,
Right.
but that, that really drives. So that puts the cost of 1,000 feet constructability wise to build it at 122. And a lot of that driving factor out of that is more traffic control. Has quite a bit more impact here where we were able to push the cars over because we had the space with the breakdown lane up there and we were able to work with very minimal flagging and stuff. Down here, we're up against a completely different animal because the road's so much narrower that we have to have traffic control. That impacts the cost right through here quite a bit. Shuck Station was a perfect plethora of awesome combined because no traffic control because we have parking stalls that we can just take during the day. Off the side of the road, so great, no impact to the traveling whatsoever. You don't have to do anything. The curb is in great shape and to height, so it's literally just removal of the pavement, regrading a new hot top a little bit wider and we're done. So that's why that is so much significantly less cost. Even for the same amount of length, is just because the effort and what we're doing is two totally different
Yeah,
scopes.
yeah.
But that's why, just to give you some relevance on the cost of the sidewalk project, where, how.
Yep.
So Seth, another question I have in my mind is the lens that I'm kind of seeing our roads capital projects in is like basically a 3-year, this kind of 3-year lens.
It is,
Yeah, and so, we've got, Station Road should be, that's completed this year.
correct.
Island Road, we're gonna jump into that heavy this year. So then we're back down to just, finish surfacing the final year. And so I'm kind of wondering, like, let's, if we can, like, talk about like the 5-year plan.
Yep.
If not the 5 to 10-year plan, because I'm thinking as we get caught up to, where we want to be, like Joel is saying. What I don't think we want to do is fall off a cliff.
Yeah.
And so I think we want an easy landing.
Yeah.
And I think that requires some longer term planning.
Sure. Yeah, we can give you some budget. I mean, we're seeing that right now with Lynch Road. Right, Lynch Road was done roughly 12 years ago. And now it's coming to, it needs to be cut again. Because stuff is starting to go back in. It needs to be ditched, not ditched to the same degree as what we're doing when we're rebuilding, but maintenance ditched. And we need, so, we're starting to come to that. You can see the road starting to open up in a few spots, just like Academy Hill, right? Academy Hill, we don't need to replace the culverts anymore because those are plastic. They were done. The road gravel's in pretty decent shape because that was replaced. So it's a different degree of construction than what we're doing on some of these side roads where we're really trying to restabilize the base. So we can start to take a little bit slightly different modified approach as opposed to rebuilding more in a maintenance aspect. We can just shim and overlay as opposed to base, surface, all that stuff. My real, not fear, but my real task for you guys are going to be, we've grasped and we've got a lot of low hanging fruit pretty much, coming pretty easy, right? A lot of these roads that just needed some trimming and the road reclaims is great. But what are we going to do about East Lake County Road? I mean, that's a project, like a real project. Like, are we going to take tops of big hills off, to improve safety and sight vision and how we do that? We have a lot of complaints, stuff like that, but that's a project. We have, those types of projects. Glidden Street is going to be a project. It's not just a simple road rebuild. It's got closed system drainage. It's got, utilities involved, DU on streetlight. So we've got a couple of bigger things coming now. So how that fits into your 5 and 10 year, your bonding, all of that will really come into play.
Yeah.
Because it's going to be a little more sophisticated. It's going to be Academy Hill style project as opposed to West Hamlet Road, which you can just close the road off and do what we got to do. Station Road, same thing. It's a little bit more intricate.
Yeah.
So that will definitely have an effect.
And even smaller projects like Pleasant Street,
Yes.
that's not exactly the best surface in the
Nope.
world anymore.
Correct.
I mean,
Understatement.
as we've just sort of experienced in the last 2 weeks, one box culvert goes out and there's your capital
Done.
budget.
Yes.
It's scary. So I'm
Very scary.
thinking, so the escalation in sort of the capital roads budget over the last 5 years has gone up as a percentage of our municipal budget.
Sure.
And so what I'm wondering is, what should we be talking about? What's a good target zone for capital roads? As part of a percentage of our
Overall budget.
overall
Mhm.
budget.
Yep.
And not, and so that's kind of the sweet spot, because, yeah, we could go out and we could pepper the town,
Right.
and taxpayers and pay for it.
Right.
We're not. So at some point, that number outside of the sweet spot becomes, okay, do we need to bond this? Is this a project that's really worth, sort of a capital investment like that? So I think that's my only point is keeping an eye on that sweet spot, wherever that is in terms of a percentage, and maybe we should talk like that in future budget years, is where is the capital roads in terms of where it's, where is it, where was it, where is it?
Monetary based instead of project based.
Yes. Yeah.
Totally get it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the last 3 years we've been right around this 800-ish. You know, the hard part, when you start looking at a project based instead of percentage based, like we've been doing, is that project based look varies so greatly up within the project that it's hard to get, because that same project on one road might only have 4 culverts. That same distance in another road might have 20 culverts. You might have ledge in one road, you may not have ledge in another. So, you know, those cost things, you know, we get a mile of road done on Station Road where we only get a half a mile done on a road that's got far more complexities to it for the same dollar value. So your point is taken to the extent that that percentage or that dollar value is great from the budget standpoint of just where that can go, as opposed to the project look where I want to accomplish a mile a year. Well, that might have severe budget impacts. A mile this year might be 1.5 million, a mile next year might only be 650. So totally get where you're going with that. We can come down. I mean, I think that if you're looking to do a 5-10 year plan, there's something I certainly can sit down and give you guys some guidance on. But that would be, I would be open to the manager being involved in that, and maybe a board member or something like that, because, you know, some of the scope is outside of me. I'll build it all day long. You know, Bob the builder loves to build things. I'll build whatever I want, but I can only build what your vision is and where you want the town to go. So if your vision is really in-town based pedestrian, or if your vision is really rural America, small town streets, that's where I gotta have some feedback, because those dollar values are gonna go to your constituency wherever you want.
Of course, the answer to that is yes.
Yeah, right, yes,
Yeah.
well, right.
Well,
But-
What I'm, I guess what I just want to say, I think what I'm thinking about it too is the conversation with the citizens and the public at town meeting or
Sure.
wherever, which is to say, yeah, these are projects, but look, this is where sort of what we've dedicated in budget over these years. Let's say it's 20% of our municipal budget
Yeah.
towards roads. We're not really changing that because our municipal budgets is going up. So therefore roads budget, percentage of that is going to change too. So yeah, it costs a lot to maintain roads, but we're consistent on a trend.
Right.
You know, and I think that's, you know, I think that's important to be able to, you know, I guess, help people understand, you know, what kind of what designs this kind of investment in our infrastructure.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
I
your,
mean,
it's your job to financially be, you know, very practical with the funds of the town, and to show them that you're not just spending willy-nilly, that it's on a progression is very reasonable.
yeah,
and some of this stuff gets shuffled around a little bit timeline wise, just because of factors that make it more advantageous for us to do projects at a certain time, you know what I mean?
Exactly,
So
yeah.
that's just
Well,
kind of what it is. or
That's
what
to my
makes
point, like
sense.
Glidden Street, right? Glidden Street really isn't been in our outlook, because we weren't quite sure if this was gonna happen or not. Now we know it is gonna happen, so now, you know, it's, to your point, it should be something. Glidden Street's not a mile long, it's a much smaller street, but it's probably still gonna consume a fair amount
Yeah.
of capital, because you got sidewalks there. You don't have sidewalk in the street, you got closed circuit drainage, you don't have that on every street. We're gonna have to have survey done on that road. We don't do that on every road, that we have stone walls that guide us out in the middle of the woods, you know? But down there, we put a sidewalk on somebody's front lawn and doesn't belong there, we're in trouble. So we're gonna have to have some survey work done. So those types of things definitely have some impact to
Mhm.
how we want to progress and move forward.
That's great. Well, I think
Actually, just you're mentioning like surveying on Glidden, can we piggyback on? There's presumably some surveying work done for the water project. Can we kind of piggyback on that as far as getting some of that? Is that
No
sort of based-
survey, no real true survey was needed for water, because it's replacing kind.
Oh, okay.
So the scope of the project was limited to
okay.
where their existing pipe is, so they're fairly confident that since they are where they are now without any issues, to replace it where it is would be very,
Okay. Oh, well.
you know what I mean?
Yeah,
If they were
yeah,
gonna
yeah.
reroute it and put it in a different spot for whatever reason, then
Okay.
yes, they probably would have. Now, did they do basic survey so they know roughly? but they didn't get into true survey work like we would be physically pushing the boundaries of our right of way if we had to squeeze. You know, our discussion, do we want two-way traffic on Glid Street, for example? Well, that might increase the roadway by 6 feet. And then do we want a 4 or 5 foot sidewalk? Well, there's an extra foot. So now that 50-foot right of way is really starting to get squeezed and we want to make sure. Whereas the water, they're talking about a 6-foot trench right typically in the middle of the road. So they've got quite a bit of wiggle room before they feel outside.
Okay, yeah. Anyway, just.
Yeah.
Oh, well.
Good thought. Very good thought. But yeah. Now I will tell you that the engineer that we've been using for the survey work for the Pleasant Street, he did ask for a copy of those because it does save some time on landowners and where pins and stuff are, you know, so he can kind of get a plan for that. So it's not, your point is well taken and definitely considered in some aspects, just not 100% all the way.
Great. So I think that,
Okay.
that sounds good. That sounds good to everybody to sort of take that course of action.
I'll read you the numbers on Academy Hill, get those to Sarah so
Yep.
that she has that for her notes for her capital on the
Great.
Academy Hill side, and then we'll make the adjustment down on the River Road side.
Yep.
Have that be the plan for you guys for your presentation for the meeting. Reasonable.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's great.
Okay.
Good.
I'll keep you posted on anything else that I hear from engineers as we move forward. Like I said, we'll be out on Lynch Road. If anything else pops up out there, I'll keep you in the loop. And is there anything else that you guys need? Or are you feeling any questions or anything on that storm stuff from anybody else?
The, they're gonna do, get striping on the way.
Yep.
On the way.
Great
Yep.
question.
Can we just make sure that they don't mess up and put an extra note in their stuff so they don't put the line. The intersection just got very confusing. And it happened like twice they did it.
I know, I just,
You just
oh my
put an
goodness
extra
gracious, I don't know how many times we've. The answer to the striping is just simply they're fully staffed this year, so
Yeah.
that's good, they're making great time.
They have paint.
They got paint,
That's good.
all very positive things this year.
Yeah.
The only thing that just slid them back a little bit is that 2 weeks worth of rain.
Yeah.
I talked to him and he is slated to be here the week right after this holiday weekend, so
Great.
he's just off just a little bit. And for once, knock on wood, I think Andy is happy as well, but we're working with Darren Muscata. So we're using our guy that we have here and they're gonna do their sidewalk with us, so we're kind of getting back a little bit without. Don't want to upset the apple cart here over any hard feelings, but you know, just trying to save a little bit, working together to hopefully
Yeah.
that might come back. So Darren Scott is gonna do, they're just crosswalks on Main Street while they're here. Doing ours as well, so.
Great.
But that's coming, I hope, the week right after the holiday.
Yeah. Or maybe we just keep changing, like, we just let them interpret that intersection every single year. And see why something that we like, you know what I mean? Just say, it's up to you guys, figure out how you think this thing should work. And
When
just
Steve,
let them go for it.
when Steve has a crew come down, I will personally go and walk that intersection with him and see if we can't get it right, because yes, I agree, it's always a struggle.
Yeah.
And it is always interesting the following morning, because somebody stops and then they go, and then, yes, I
Yeah.
totally get it. You're not from here, I can see that, and you're, yeah.
Sarah, I guess I'm confused. The issue I brought up on River Road, is that something that Seth reports, you report, the resident has to
Anyone
report?
can report, to Maine
We-
DOT.
We were told that the whatever you call it, the shoulder of the road, I guess, washed out across from the Glidden Cemetery and River Road, State
Oh,
Road,
oh, yeah, okay.
obviously.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
They've got a lot of issues. They're working on them. They're just, I mean, they're really. You guys are dealing with your budget, you can imagine what that is like for them, but the camp manager knows that we've got Sheepscot Road's got quite a few, 213, 215's got quite a few. We still got the LCP for this area that's gonna happen, so I think, to be completely honest with you, they're waiting for us to go through and pave, and once the summer paving, they typically go through and shoulder after the paving, so I think they're basically just focusing on the real big stuff right now, and then after the hot top goes down, they'll shoulder and get what they can, and that's gonna be that.
Who did the repair right out here?
That was DOT
They did come.
by
down.
Rob's lot, right
No,
across.
Right.
Yeah.
Right down,
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
Rob,
The ditch.
the ditch that washed off, yeah,
that's
Yeah,
Rob
Rob's.
Gregory.
okay,
Yeah, he reached out to town first, and then he went to the state.
okay.
Yeah, same
Notified
thing.
him. Okay,
They do know about most of these, they're doing the best they can with what they have, and they will get to them.
I can't even imagine how many there were in the whole state with all the rain
A
we
lot.
got. Yeah,
A lot,
it's bad.
a lot.
Oh, yeah, I
Mhm.
took a look at the Bristol culvert dam. I mean, the,
Oh, did you go down?
yeah.
The pipe arch?
Yeah, I got out of my car, I kind of watched it, took a video of it. Big difference there, and it was actually the stream was the Pembroke River there
Yeah.
was flowing at a good clip.
Yeah.
But a big deal over here is we've got tidal
Interchange with it.
interchange.
You do.
Yeah, and so that's a constant, based on where they leave the dam,
Right.
it's a constant flow.
Yep.
But they did a nice job on it. It was,
Thank you.
yeah. Did you work on that?
We did it.
Oh, you did it. Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
nice. Yeah, yeah. So, and the footings were higher than the rip, it was kind of up high. So
Those are just, what you can see, but the footings are actually buried and pinned. So we put them on a wall.
Oh,
We
okay.
put those up, but the footings themselves, that's what's so disheartening about what happened over on Lynch Road is that, contractors are not immune from. It was a hard workmanship for sure. We'll just leave it at that. And, typically what we see for footings are usually feet wide by feet thick.
Yeah, yeah.
And
This
they're
looked like a
typically-
residential footing to me.
It's 6 to 8 inches.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not, there's nothing to it.
It's crazy.
So.
Yeah.
But you'll notice that a lot of the change in design for those that would really help us now is now they've gone to, I think it's 1.4 bank width side. So, your average bank width, 1.4 is what they're building for those width now for those storms. So that's why I really feel that as we move forward, looking that if we go to some sort of precast bridge structure, we can really gain that much more and get it up on the drive and prevent this from, enough of the.
So
I know
that-
bridges cost money to maintain, but in this scenario, I don't know how much more money you could spend over the last 20 years besides replacing this 3
And that
times.
was,
Yes.
that,
So
Yeah.
that was a bridge at one time.
it
Right,
was,
yeah,
it
so
was a metal graded bridge.
it was back when it was tidal. And it was,
And we're lucky because that still maintains that bridge number, which is why we have the photographs of where it was prior to, because it's on the DOT registry. That's how we got. Because it still has that bridge number identified with it.
Seth, sell. When you talk to FEMA, sell hard. Get us that bridge, come on.
Well, but the good news is let's just face it, even if we're talking rough numbers, if the bridge is 1.4. If we can get one out of FEMA,
Yeah.
then that's a great, that's
Absolutely.
less than what you paid for when you put the original box culvert in
Yep.
20 years ago.
Yep.
So that's a significant change and something that would go a long way.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
we'll see what we can do. We'll just keep pushing engineering.
I know you can do it.
seems like that, it seems like that one really does push the limits for a box culvert. I mean, it's just, there's a
It's-
lot going on
Yeah.
there. There's a lot of.
I could
hydrology.
not believe, well, you guys were,
Yeah.
did you see the flow line of where the water was at the high point up
Yeah.
there? There was only about 6 inches from the top. I
Yeah.
thought box was full.
Yeah.
I was,
Yeah.
wow,
Yeah,
that is a ton of water.
Yeah.
I mean, not only was it full, but it was running past it.
Around
through
it,
on
yeah.
that front side, Which is, just nuts. Yeah,
I would have liked to have seen it, to be honest with you, had I known that it was
I know.
doing that the
Yeah.
way that it was
Mhm.
doing it. I would have liked to kind of to see it, right? Because then you can really truly have a feeling of the true power for like how the road was
Right.
taking that impact of the water. Because
Should have gone down and checked it out on Saturday night.
I did.
Saturday- You did on Saturday
Oh,
night?
yeah, absolutely. did. I was
Was
very,
it
yes,
At like
nowhere
midnight?
near. It wasn't anywhere near.
Well, probably the tide wasn't,
Well, no,
It was low. I was low at the time. It was
Okay.
running. But it was probably,
but probably at the turn of the tide when
'Cause
the water's up.
would have
And then
been,
it starts, that's probably, got the most head and, the most.
yeah,
force.
but Rob, I think that it's the softest run when it's the fullest.
oh, really?
Because as that tide goes down and it drops, then you really start seeing it rip
Right.
through as the
Right.
lower elevation goes. When it's up full, which is, to be honest with you, I think what really hurt us when we got that 6 inches of rain.
And
I think if we had had a high tide, it would have been, it may have came over the road, but we wouldn't have had the velocity that we did to flush it
Right.
like it did, because it took all that riprap and physically flushed it right out of the bottom. So
Yeah, and you do have a tide push, sometimes you have a tide pushing and you have water pushing the other way
Right.
too. You got
there's all sorts of different combinations.
Downtown would have
So
flooded,
what's-
but we probably would have
Yeah.
been spared a little bit out
Yeah.
there. So
Yeah.
it's just a weird dynamic. But I would have really liked to have seen it because that was some severe force on the side of that road there. That's a lot of water. You don't see that,
Yeah.
not normal.
Yeah.
That's not-
It used to not be. normal.
Well, I guess, yeah, that's true too,
Yeah.
but.
Excellent.
Thanks
Thank
a
you.
lot,
for that.
Seth.
Thank
All right,
you.
guys.
Right. Moving on to item 8, we got the town manager's report.
Nomination papers. We received 3 back. We've mentioned this, but Elizabeth Ball for school board tour and Rufus Percy for select board, that'll be on the absentee ballot. I'll just tie it in with that one, which the final day to request is June 8th, and then voters have until 8 PM on election day to return the ballot. We've been getting quite a few calls with confused residents regarding the historic preservation ordinance. That is not being voted on at town meeting. Right now, the committee is meeting to discuss what a potential ordinance would be, but there would be proper notice issued when it's time to potentially vote on that. What is being voted on at town meeting, as you all know, is the roads ordinance that we've been working on. And we'll have public hearing for that at the June 5th meeting, which is also when we have shifted our select board meeting. We'll have additionally a special town meeting for the school warrant here. 6:30 for the special town meeting, 7 o'clock for the public hearing. Lynch Road weight limits, we just talked about that with Seth, but we did reduce them to 15 tons temporary fixes. Put in. And I brought draft copies because we've had so many calls about the roads ordinance and the historic preservation ordinance. I brought draft copies of the roads ordinance, but if anybody wants a copy of that, they can come by town office. We'll also post it on the website.
Right. Moving on to 9.1. We've got a town warrant for $169,167.81. We have a motion to approve. Moved by Karen, do I have a second? Seconded by Rob. Any discussion?
It's Modern Pest Services finding any pests.
Always.
Yeah.
Yeah. They refill the bait traps every time they come, and we have wildlife in the Tanascott.
Great.
But it's been a noticeable improvement.
Good.
In town
You're
office
not
since
hearing
we,
anything running around the
not
ceiling, no?
hearing anything, not seeing evidence of. So,
All those in favor? This is 5-1. Do I have, can I get a motion to go into executive session under 1 MRSA section 4056A personnel
So move.
and
What?
D?
nope,
No D?
nope.
No D, okay. Cool. Moved by Tor, do I have a second?
I'll second.
Seconded by Rob. All those in favor? All right.